The alarm bell rang across the training deck of the GSS Horizon, and Lisa Park knew she was in trouble again. She watched as her squad mates moved like lightning around the obstacle course. Amy, the blue-skinned Zenithi girl, had already finished the course 3 times while Lisa was still struggling with the first wall climb. Lisa's hands were sweaty as she grabbed the rope. Her muscles burned as she pulled herself up, 1 painful inch at a time. Below her, she could hear the other cadets, talking in low voices. They thought she couldn't hear them, but she could. "Why do they even let humans in the academy?" whispered Zek, a tall Vorthak whose crystal skin sparkled under the training lights. "She's holding everyone back." "The Galactic Union says all species deserve a chance," replied Maya, another Zenithi. "But some chances are just wasted." Lisa's grip slipped, and she fell back to the starting position with a loud thud. The other cadets stopped talking and stared at her. Some looked sorry for her, but most just looked annoyed. She had failed the rope climb for the 5th time this week. Commander Vexitar walked over to where Lisa lay on the padded floor. The Mindari instructor was 7 feet tall, with pale gray skin and black eyes that seemed to look right through her. When he spoke, his voice was cold and sharp. "Cadet Park," Commander Vexitar said. "Perhaps you should consider a different career path. The Galactic Defense Force needs many types of workers. Not all of them need to be officers." Lisa got to her feet and brushed the dust off her uniform. Her face was red, but she looked the commander in the eye. "I'm not giving up, sir." Commander Vexitar made a sound that might have been a laugh, but it wasn't a nice one. "Your determination is noted, Cadet. However, determination without ability is simply stubbornness." The other human cadets watched from across the room. Danny Rodriguez was working on a tactical puzzle that would have taken Lisa hours to solve. He finished it in 10 minutes and moved on to the next one. Katie Walsh was leading a group discussion about fleet formations, and even the alien cadets listened to what she had to say. Lisa felt very alone. After training, Lisa walked slowly back to her room. The corridors of the GSS Horizon were huge, with ceilings that stretched up 3 stories high. The walls were made of some kind of white metal that glowed softly, giving everything a clean, perfect look. Lisa always felt small in these hallways, like she didn't belong. Her roommate Kyle was already in their shared room when Lisa arrived. Kyle was a Vorthak, and his body was made of living crystal that changed colors based on his mood. Right now he was a calm blue-green as he studied at his desk. "How was training?" Kyle asked without looking up from his books. "The same," Lisa said. She sat on her bed and pulled off her boots. Her feet hurt, and she had new bruises on her arms from falling off the rope. Kyle's crystal body shifted to a softer blue. "You know, Lisa, there's no shame in finding a different path. My cousin works in galactic communications. It's important work, and I don't want to work in communications," Lisa said. "I want to be a fleet officer." Kyle turned around in his chair. His face was kind, but Lisa could see the doubt in his crystal features. "But why? You struggle with everything here. Physical training, tactical studies, even the basic technical courses. What makes you think you can handle command of a starship?" Lisa didn't have a good answer for that. She had always dreamed of exploring space, of commanding a ship full of brave crew members, of protecting the innocent and exploring new worlds. But maybe dreams weren't enough. The next morning brought combat simulation class, and Lisa's heart sank when she saw the assignment board. She was paired with Rex, a Mindari cadet who was the best fighter in their year, and Kira, a Zenithi whose reflexes were so fast she could dodge laser blasts. "This should be interesting," Rex said as they walked to the simulation chamber. His telepathic abilities meant he could read surface thoughts, and Lisa tried hard not to think about how scared she was. The simulation was set on a burning space station. Their mission was to rescue hostages and get out before the station exploded. Lisa knew the other 2 could complete this mission easily without her. As soon as the simulation started, Rex and Kira moved like a perfect team. Rex used his mind powers to sense where the enemies were hiding, while Kira moved so fast she was just a blur of motion. Lisa tried to keep up, but she was too slow. "Lisa, cover the rear," Rex called out as they entered the main corridor. It was a polite way of telling her to stay out of the way. Lisa watched as her teammates rescued the first group of hostages with amazing skill. Rex could disable enemies just by thinking at them, and Kira could disarm 3 opponents at once. They made it look easy, but then Lisa noticed something on her scanner that the others had missed. There was a weak life sign in a damaged section of the station, an area that Rex and Kira had marked as too dangerous to enter. "There's someone else," Lisa said into her communicator. "Section C7. "Negative," Rex replied. "That area is about to collapse. We stick to the mission plan." Lisa looked at her scanner again. The life sign was getting weaker. She made a decision that would probably get her in trouble later. She went to Section C7 alone. The corridor was filled with smoke and broken metal. Lisa had to crawl through spaces that would have been too small for her larger teammates. She found the missing hostage trapped under a fallen beam, unconscious and hurt. Lisa wasn't strong enough to lift the beam like a Vorthak could. She couldn't move fast enough to carry the person to safety like a Zenithie. But she could think of another way. Using her laser cutter, she carefully cut through the support struts around the beam. Then she used pieces of debris to create a lever system, something she remembered from basic engineering class. It took longer than brute strength would have, but it worked. By the time Lisa got back to the meeting point with the extra hostage, the simulation was almost over. Rex and Kira stared at her in surprise. "How did you?" Kira started to ask. The simulation ended before she could finish her question. Commander Vextar was waiting for them outside the chamber. His black eyes focused on Lisa, and she could tell he was not happy. "Cadet Park," he said, in his cold voice. "You disobeyed direct orders from your team leader." "Yes, sir," Lisa said. "But there was another hostage. The simulation parameters were clear. Your unauthorized actions put the entire mission at risk." Commander Vexitar looked at the other cadets, then back at Lisa. "See me after class." As the other students filed out, Lisa heard their whispers again. "She can't even follow simple orders. Why does she keep trying? Humans just aren't cut out for this." Lisa sat alone in the empty classroom, waiting for Commander Vexitar to return. Through the window she could see the stars moving slowly past as the GSS Horizon continued its journey through space. Those stars seemed very far away now, and Lisa wondered if she would ever get to explore them. Maybe everyone was right. Maybe she should give up and find something else to do with her life. Maybe humans really didn't belong among the stars. Lisa was packing her few belongings when the ship started shaking. At first, she thought it was just the normal vibrations from the engines. The GSS Horizon was a massive ship, and sometimes you could feel it moving through space. But this shaking was different. It was wrong. Her roommate Kyle's crystal body turned bright red, which meant he was scared. "What's happening?" he asked, his voice higher than usual. Before Lisa could answer, the emergency lights came on. Red warning signals flashed in the corridors, outside their room. Then came the announcement that made Lisa's blood run cold. "All cadets report to emergency stations immediately. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill." Lisa and Kyle ran toward the main assembly area along with hundreds of other cadets. The corridors were full of confused voices speaking in dozens of different languages. Some of the alien students were making sounds Lisa had never heard before, sounds that meant fear in their species. When they reached the main hall, Commander Vextar was already there with the other instructors, but something was very wrong with them. The commander's usually perfect gray skin looked sick and pale. His hands were shaking as he tried to operate a control pad. "Listen carefully," Commander Vextar said, his voice weaker than Lisa had ever heard it. "The ship has encountered a gravitational anomaly near the Kronos Nebula. Our systems are failing, and we are being pulled toward the nebula's center." Amy, the Zenithie girl who had always been so fast and confident, was sitting on the floor. Her blue skin had turned almost white, and she was breathing hard. Around the room, Lisa could see that all the alien students looked sick. "The nebula is giving off some kind of radiation," Commander Vextar continued. "It appears to be harmful to most galactic species. Medical teams are trying to find a solution, but for now, all non-human personnel should report to the medical bay for treatment." "Lisa, watched as her alien classmates began moving slowly toward the exits. They moved like old people, weak and tired. Even the mighty Vorthak students, who were usually so strong they could bend metal with their hands, were having trouble walking. Kyle grabbed Lisa's arm with a crystal hand that felt cold and rough. "Help me get to medical," he whispered. His red color was fading to a sickly gray. Lisa helped Kyle walk to the medical bay, but when they got there, she saw something that scared her more than anything else. The medical bay was full of alien students and instructors, all lying on beds and looking very sick. But the human doctors and nurses moving between the beds looked perfectly fine. Dr. Adams, one of the human medical officers, saw Lisa and Kyle. "Get him on a bed," she said quickly. "The radiation is affecting all non-human species, but we don't know why humans seem to be immune." Lisa helped Kyle onto a medical bed and watched as Dr. Adams attached monitoring devices to his crystal body. Kyle's colors were very dim now and his breathing was slow and difficult. "Will he be okay?" Lisa asked. Dr. Adams looked tired and worried. "We're doing everything we can, but we don't understand this radiation yet. The ship's main computer is also affected, so we can't run proper tests." Lisa left the medical bay and walked through the corridors of the ship. Everywhere she looked, she saw the same thing. Alien crew members and students lying in emergency shelters, too sick to move. Human personnel running back and forth trying to keep the ship working. She found Danny Rodriguez in the main computer center, working at a control station with sweat running down his face. Several alien technicians were lying on the floor nearby, too weak to work. "Danny," Lisa called out, "what's happening to the ship?" Danny looked up from his controls. His eyes were red from tiredness, but he didn't look sick like the aliens did. "It's bad, Lisa, really bad. The ship's main computer is failing because of the radiation. The artificial gravity keeps turning on and off. Life support is running at 30%. And we're being pulled deeper into the nebula. What about the engines? Can't we just fly away?" "That's the worst part," Danny said. "The navigation system is completely down. We can't plot a course out of here because we don't know exactly where we are or which way leads to safety." Lisa felt a cold fear in her stomach. "How many humans are there on the ship?" Danny stopped typing and looked at her. "Including students and crew? Maybe 50 out of 3,000 people total." Lisa did the math in her head. 50 humans to take care of 3,000 beings on a ship that was falling apart. It seemed impossible. She made her way to the bridge of the ship, where she found Captain Martinez, one of the few human senior officers. He was standing at the command station, but instead of the usual crew of aliens working at different stations, there were only 3 other humans trying to operate controls they had never been trained to use. "Captain," Lisa said, walking up to him, "is there anything I can do to help?" Captain Martinez looked at her with tired eyes. "You're one of the cadets, right? Lisa Park?" "Yes, sir." "Can you read Vorthak technical manuals?" Lisa blinked in surprise. I think so. We had to learn basic Vorthak in first year." "Good. I need you in engineering. Most of our alien engineers are in medical, and we need someone to help figure out how to restart the fusion reactors manually." Lisa had never been in the ship's main engineering section before. It was huge, full of machines and pipes and control panels with writing in a dozen different languages. She found Katie Walsh there, along with 2 other human cadets she barely knew. "Lisa," Katie called out when she saw her. "Thank goodness. Do you know anything about power systems?" "A little," Lisa said. "I got a C- in basic engineering." Katie laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "Well, a C- is better than nothing. Look at this." Katie showed Lisa a control panel covered in Vorthak symbols. "According to the manual, we need to restart the fusion reactor manually. But half these controls are labeled in languages I can't read, and the instruction manual assumes you have telepathic abilities to interface with the computer." Lisa studied the panel. The Vorthak writing was difficult, but she could make out some of it. More importantly, she could see that some of the human-labeled controls were in the wrong positions. I think this switch controls the magnetic containment field," Lisa said, pointing to a large red control. "And this one might be the plasma injector." "Might be?" Katie asked. Lisa looked at the panel again, trying to remember everything she had learned in engineering class. The Vorthak always put safety controls on the right side of their panels. If this is the containment field control, then the injector has to be here. She pointed to a blue switch that was currently in the off position. Katie looked at the manual again. If you're wrong, we could blow up half the ship. If we don't try, the reactor will shut down completely in 2 hours. And then everyone dies anyway, Lisa said. Katie nodded slowly. Okay, let's do it. Lisa's hands were shaking as she reached for the controls. She had never been responsible for anything this important before. Back in training, the worst thing that happened when she made a mistake was getting yelled at by Commander Vextar. Now, if she was wrong, people would die. She flipped the first switch, nothing happened. She flipped the second switch. Deep in the ship's belly, she could hear a low humming sound starting up. Katie was watching the status displays. Containment field is stable. Plasma injectors are online. Lisa, I think you did it. But before Lisa could feel relief, alarms started, ringing throughout the ship. Captain Martinez's voice came over the communication system and he sounded very scared. All personnel, prepare for emergency maneuvers. We have detected multiple unknown ships approaching from within the nebula. I repeat, unknown ships are approaching, and they do not appear to be friendly. Lisa and Katie looked at each other. The ship was barely working. Most of the crew was too sick to fight, and now they were about to be attacked by mysterious enemies. Lisa realized that the real test was just beginning. Lisa ran to the nearest window and pressed her face against the thick glass. What she saw made her heart stop. 3 massive ships were coming out of the nebula, but they didn't look like any ships she had ever seen before. They were black and shaped like huge triangles with edges that seemed to bend the light around them in strange ways. What are those? Katie asked, looking over Lisa's shoulder. I don't know, Lisa said, but they're big, really big. Captain Martinez's voice came over the speakers again. All human personnel to battle stations. I repeat, all humans to battle stations. We are on our own. Lisa had never been to a battle station before. She wasn't even sure where hers was supposed to be, but Katie grabbed her arm and pulled her toward the main corridor. Come on, Katie said. We need to get to the command center. They ran through corridors filled with sick aliens lying on stretchers and human crew members rushing back and forth. Lisa could hear the ship's weapons charging up, a deep humming sound that made the walls vibrate. When they reached the command center, Lisa saw Captain Martinez standing at the main control station with only 5 other humans. The room was designed for 30 crew members, but now it felt empty and quiet except for the beeping of warning alarms. Captain, Danny Rodriguez called out from the sensor station. The unknown ships are not responding to our communications. They're moving into attack position. What kind of weapons do they have? Captain Martinez asked. I can't tell, sir, Danny said. Our sensors are still not working properly because of the nebula radiation. Lisa watched the main screen as the 3 black ships got closer. They moved in a perfect triangle formation, like they were controlled by the same mind. Something about them scared her more than their size or strange shape. They felt wrong, like they didn't belong in normal space. Sir, said Tom Wilson, one of the human engineers, our weapon systems are only working at 20% power. The alien crew who normally operate the main guns are all in medical. Captain Martinez was quiet for a moment. Lisa could see him thinking hard about their situation. Finally, he spoke. We can't fight 3 ships that size with our weapons barely working, he said. Our only chance is to try to outrun them. But sir, Danny said, we don't have a navigation computer. We don't know which way leads out of the nebula. Then we guess, Captain Martinez said. Better to die trying to escape than to die waiting for them to destroy us. Lisa felt the ship turn as Captain Martinez tried to steer them away from the approaching enemies. But the black ships moved faster than the GSS Horizon could, and they were getting closer every second. Suddenly, a beam of green light shot out from the nearest black ship and hit their hull. The whole ship shook, and Lisa had to grab onto a control panel to keep from falling. Damage report, Captain Martinez called out. Hull breach on deck 7, Tom Wilson reported. But it's strange. The beam didn't try to destroy us. It's like it was scanning us. Lisa looked at the main screen again. The black ships had stopped moving toward them. Instead, they were just floating in space, as if they were waiting for something. "Captain," Danny said, his voice scared. "I'm reading some kind of energy beam coming from all three ships. It's not aimed at our hull, it's aimed at the medical bay." Lisa's blood went cold. "The medical bay? Where all the aliens are?" Before anyone could answer, the green beams hit the ship again. This time Lisa felt something different. The ship wasn't shaking from damage. It was shaking because something was being pulled out of it. "My God," Captain Martinez whispered, staring at his instruments. "They're not trying to destroy us. They're taking our people." Lisa ran to the internal sensors and tried to figure out how to work them. Her hands moved over the controls, pressing buttons she had seen alien technicians use during training. Finally, she got a picture of the medical bay. On the screen, what she saw made her want to scream. The sick aliens were floating in the air, surrounded by the same green light that was coming from the enemy ships. One by one, they were being pulled through the walls of the ship as if the metal wasn't even there. "They're stealing our people," Lisa said. "All the aliens are being taken." "But why?" Katie asked. "What do they want with them?" Lisa watched the screen as Kyle, her crystal roommate, floated past the camera. His dim, gray body was completely still, and she couldn't tell if he was alive or dead. "I think," Lisa said, slowly, "I think these ships are after the aliens specifically. The radiation that made them sick, what if it wasn't an accident? What if it was designed to make them helpless?" Captain Martinez turned to look at her. "What are you saying?" "Think about it," Lisa said, the idea's coming faster now. "The radiation doesn't hurt humans at all, but it makes every other galactic species too weak to fight back. And now these ships show up and start taking only the aliens." Danny looked up from his sensor station. "Lisa's right. The beams are completely ignoring the human crew members. It's like we're invisible to them." Captain Martinez was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. "If that's true, then we might be the only ones who can stop this." "Stop it how?" Tom Wilson asked. "Our weapons barely work, and we only have 50 people. Lisa stared at the screen, showing the medical bay. Most of the aliens were gone now, pulled out into space by the green beams. In a few minutes, the ships would have taken everyone except the humans. "Maybe that's our advantage," Lisa said. "They don't think we're dangerous. They're ignoring us completely. So what do?" Katie asked. Lisa looked around the command center at the few humans trying to operate a ship designed for hundreds of alien crew members. A few days ago, she had been the worst cadet in the academy. Now she might be one of the only people who could save everyone. "We need to get onto one of those ships," Lisa said. Everyone stared at her like she had lost her mind. "Lisa," Captain Martinez said gently, "those ships are huge. We don't even know if they have air we can breathe. But we know they don't see us as a threat," Lisa said. "If we can get close enough, maybe we can find out what they want with our people. Maybe we can get them back." "How?" Danny asked. "Our shuttle bay is on the same deck as the hull breach. We can't launch anything." Lisa thought about everything she had learned in her engineering classes. All the basic maintenance procedures that seemed so boring at the time. What about the maintenance pods? The little ships they use to fix the outside of the hull? Tom Wilson nodded slowly. "There are 6 of them in the lower hangar. They're designed for one person each, and they can survive in space for several hours." "That's it then," Lisa said. "We take the maintenance pods and get onto one of those black ships." "Lisa," Captain Martinez said, "this is incredibly dangerous. We don't know anything about those ships or the beings that control them." Lisa looked at the screen one more time. The medical bay was almost empty now. Kyle was gone. Amy was gone. Commander Vexitar was gone. Everyone who had ever doubted her, everyone who had ever believed in her, they were all gone. "With respect, sir," Lisa said, "everyone we care about is on those ships. If we don't try to save them, who will?" Captain Martinez looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Tom, Get the maintenance pods ready. Danny, try to find us a way onto one of those ships without being detected. Katie, help me figure out what we're going to do once we get there. Lisa felt scared and excited at the same time. She was about to do something that would have been impossible for her just a week ago. She was about to lead a rescue mission into the unknown. For the first time since coming to the academy, Lisa felt like she might actually belong among the stars. Lisa climbed into the small maintenance pod and felt her heart beating fast. The pod was barely big enough for one person, with simple controls and a small window to look out. She had practiced using these pods in training, but she had never been very good at it. Through her communicator, she could hear the other humans getting ready in their own pods. Captain Martinez was in Pod 1, Danny was in Pod 2, Katie was in Pod 3, and Lisa was in Pod 4. Tom Wilson and 2 other humans stayed behind to watch the ship. Remember, Captain Martinez said over the radio, "We stay together, and we stay quiet. These ships might not see us as dangerous, but that doesn't mean they won't notice us if we make too much noise." Lisa looked out her window at the closest black ship. It was even bigger up close, like a floating mountain made of dark metal. She could see strange patterns on its surface that seemed to move and change as she watched them. "Pod 4 ready," Lisa said into her communicator, trying to keep her voice steady. "All pods, launch in 3, 2, 1, go." Lisa pushed the launch button and felt her stomach drop as the pod shot out of the hangar. Flying in space was different from the simulators. There was no up or down, and the stars seemed to spin around her as she tried to control the pod. The 4 small pods flew toward the black ship like tiny insects approaching a giant. Lisa could see the green beam still pulling aliens from the GSS horizon, carrying them toward openings in the enemy ship's hull. "There," Captain Martinez said. "Those openings where the beams are going. We can follow them in." Lisa steered her pod toward the nearest opening. As they got closer, she could see that it was like a giant mouth in the side of the ship, with the green beam going straight into it. The walls around the opening were covered in the same moving patterns she had seen on the ship's surface. One by one, the 4 pods flew into the opening. Lisa expected to hit some kind of barrier or force field, but there was nothing. They flew right through the wall as if it wasn't there. Inside the ship, Lisa gasped at what she saw. The walls were not made of metal like human ships. They looked like they were alive, pulsing with a soft blue light. The corridor was huge, big enough for her pod to fly through easily. "Stay close," Captain Martinez said. "Follow the green beam. It should lead us to where they're keeping our people." They flew deeper into the ship, following the beam of light. Lisa saw other corridors branching off in different directions, all glowing with the same blue light. Sometimes she saw movement in those corridors, shadows that might have been the ship's crew, but they never got close enough to see clearly. Finally, they reached a massive room at the center of the ship. Lisa's pod came to a stop at the edge of the room, and she stared at what she saw below. Hundreds of aliens from the GSS horizon were floating in the air, still surrounded by green light. They were arranged in perfect rows, like specimens in some kind of collection. Lisa could see Kyle's crystal body among them, and Amy's blue skin, and even Commander Vextar's tall gray form. But they weren't alone. There were thousands of other beings Lisa had never seen before, all floating in the same green light. Some looked like they might be from species she had heard about in galactic history classes. Others were completely strange, with body shapes that hurt to look at. "My God," Katie whispered over the radio. "How long have these things been collecting people?" In the center of the room stood 3 tall figures that Lisa knew must be the ship's crew. They looked almost human, but wrong in ways that made her skin crawl. Their skin was too pale, their eyes were too large, and when they moved together like parts of the same machine. The figures were working at control stations that looked like they were made of the same living material as the ship's walls. They were so focused on their work that they didn't notice the 4 small pods floating near the ceiling. Lisa listened to their conversation through her pod's translation system. Their voices were cold and emotionless, like machines trying to sound like people. "The harvest from this ship is nearly complete," one of them said. "The energy readings from these specimens are excellent. Agreed, said another. The radiation weakened them perfectly. They will provide much power for the collective. What about the primitive beings still on the ship? Asked the third figure. The ones unaffected by the radiation? They are irrelevant, the first figure replied. Their energy output is too low to be worth collecting. We will leave them to die when their ship fails. Lisa felt anger building inside her chest. These creatures had been stealing people from across the galaxy, using them like batteries to power their ships, and they thought humans were too weak to matter. She looked at the control stations the figures were using and noticed something important. The stations were connected to the green beams holding all the captured aliens. If those stations were damaged, maybe the beams would stop working. Lisa activated her communicator on a private channel to the other humans. I have an idea, she whispered. But it's dangerous. What is it? Captain Martinez asked. Those control stations. If we can destroy them, we might be able to free everyone. But we'll have to get close to those creatures. Lisa, no, Katie said. It's too risky. But Lisa was already moving. She had spent her whole time at the academy being told she wasn't good enough, wasn't strong enough, wasn't smart enough, but she was the only one who had noticed the connection between the control stations and the green beams. She flew her pod down toward the nearest control station, trying to stay quiet. The pale creatures were still talking to each other, not paying attention to the ceiling. Lisa reached the station and used her pod's maintenance tools to start cutting into the living material. It felt disgusting, like cutting into flesh. But she kept working. The first control station sparked and went dark. Immediately, a section of the green beams flickered and some of the captured aliens began to float free. Now the creatures noticed her. Impossible, one of them said, turning to stare at Lisa's pod. The primitive beings cannot be here. They lack the intelligence to find us. Well, surprise, Lisa said, and she destroyed the second control station. More aliens began floating, free, including Kyle and Amy. But the creatures were moving toward her now, and Lisa could see that they had weapons. All pods, attack now, Captain Martinez shouted. The 4 maintenance pods swooped down from different directions. They weren't designed for combat, but they had cutting tools and small thrusters that could be used as weapons. Danny's pod rammed into one of the creatures, knocking it away from its control station. Katie used her cutting laser to destroy another station. Captain Martinez attacked the third creature while Lisa finished destroying the last control station. All the green beams disappeared at once. Hundreds of aliens began floating free in the room, no longer trapped by the energy fields, but the 3 creatures weren't finished. They began to glow with the same blue light as the ship's walls, and Lisa realized they were calling for help. We need to get out of here now, Captain Martinez said. Grab as many people as you can carry. Lisa's pod could only carry 2 people, besides herself. She grabbed Kyle and Amy, who were starting to wake up as the green light faded. The other humans did the same, picking up aliens who were close by. They flew out of the collection room as fast as they could, with hundreds of freed aliens following behind them. Some of the aliens were strong enough to help carry others who were still weak. Behind them, Lisa could hear alarms going off throughout the ship. The blue light in the walls was getting brighter, and she could see more of the pale creatures coming toward them. They made it back to the opening in the ship's hull just as the GSS Horizon came into view. Tom Wilson had somehow gotten the ship's engines working better, and it was moving toward them to pick up the escaped prisoners. Lisa's pod flew out of the enemy ship and toward safety, carrying Kyle and Amy. She looked back to see the 3 black ships turning away from the nebula, apparently deciding that the humans were more trouble than they were worth. 6 months later, Lisa stood on the bridge of her own ship, the GSS Hope, wearing the uniform of a junior officer. The rescue at the Kronos Nebula had made her famous throughout the Galactic Union. She had received more medals and honors than any cadet in Academy history. But the best part wasn't the medals or the fame. The best part was the message she had, received that morning from Commander Vextar, who was now fully recovered and back to teaching at the Academy. Cadet Park, the message said, I was wrong about humans. You have taught me that strength comes in many forms, and that the greatest warriors are not always the ones who look the strongest. I would be honored to serve under your command someday. Lisa smiled as she looked out at the stars. She had finally found her place among them, not in spite of being human, but because of it. The galaxy was a big place, full of wonders and dangers, and somewhere out there, other beings who thought they were too powerful to be stopped were about to learn what humans could do when they had to protect the people they cared about. Lisa was ready for whatever came next.